Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the ownership of Rangers is in question after a court orders Chairman Dave King to make an £11 million offer to other shareholders. A Dumfriesshire village is sealed off by police after the discovery of a woman's body and two seriously injured men. A plumber is convicted of causing an explosion that destroyed a retired couple's home when he failed to fit a gas boiler properly. The celebrity chef Nick Nairn is attacked by two men while walking through the centre of Aberdeen early this morning.
They may have said something, I don't remember. I'm not good at not keeping my mouth shut, so I probably said something smart back. Carried on walking, and then one of them must have doubled back and bang right in the face.
And later in the programme, hoping it'll be child's play, Edinburgh's rugby team prepares to take on Glasgow at Murrayfield tomorrow. Good evening. The ownership of Rangers Football Club is back in question. Its board chairman, Dave King, has lost a legal action in the Court of Session and been told that he has to make an £11 million offer to buy up shares held by other shareholders. Our business and economy editor, Douglas Fraser, reports.
The faithful are back in the top flight of Scottish football, but Rangers' financial saga, it just goes on and on. For the latest episode, we've got to go back to the point Dave King ousted Charles Green as chairman. A new regime, a new broom, stability at last. Except that this South African-based businessman has run into trouble with the law. Dave King worked with three wealthy Rangers fans, known as the Three Bears, to buy up more than 30% of shares in the holding company.
The law says that when you reach that threshold and can effectively take control of a company, you have to make an offer to all the other shareholders to buy out their stakes that protects their interests. Now that would have cost Dave King about £11 million, but he didn't do it. The watchdog of this, the takeover panel, insisted that he should do so. He still refused, and he claimed he didn't have access to enough money, so they took him to court.
And today we got the ruling from Lord Bannatyne in the Court of Session. He agreed with the takeover panel that Dave King must have known about the legal requirements to make an offer. The judge also ruled Mr. King does have access to funds, in particular the offshore trusts through which he bought his 15% stake in Rangers. On two occasions, said the judge, the trusts have been willing to provide money for the purchase of Rangers shares when he wished them to do so. Now, suddenly, when Mr. King does not wish to comply, the trusts no longer are willing to provide any money. There's an odd catch, though. The going rate 3 years ago, at which Dave King has been told to offer, is 20 pence per share, yet the most recent share price is over 27 pence, so it's unlikely he'd get any takers anyway.
Here at Ibrox, they're saying this is about Dave King, it's not about Rangers or its football. Dave King hasn't said anything yet. He's got 30 days to comply. That's a month when the club still doesn't have access to conventional credit. It is still living beyond its means. It still needs to raise capital. If he doesn't comply then, well, he may not be able to get access to financial services and advice. And that raises the question of whether he can remain chairman. Douglas Fraser, Reporting Scotland, Ibrox.
A woman's body has been found by police investigating an incident in the village of Carrutherstown near Dumfries, in which two men were also injured. The death described as suspicious. One man has been arrested. Willie Johnson reports.
Police were called to Carrutherstown shortly after 6 o'clock this morning when a woman on her way to work saw an injured man beside the A75 at the western access to the village. When the emergency services arrived, another man was found nearby. Both were taken to Dumfries and Galloway Royal Infirmary with what police described as serious injuries. One of them, who's aged 35, has since been arrested and is out of hospital in police custody. The other is still undergoing treatment, but his condition is said not to be life-threatening. Police then revealed that the body of a 52-year-old woman had also been found at a house in the village and that her death is being treated as suspicious.
We've got the major investigations team from Police Scotland working locally with our detectives. They are currently looking at the death. As I say, we're treating it as suspicious, and that inquiry will include a lot of forensic activity, a lot of evidence gathering just now, speaking to witnesses, putting together the picture to ensure we get to the bottom of this as quickly as we can.
Police have confirmed that the three people involved in today's events were known to each other and that they're not looking for anyone else in connection with the inquiry, which is ongoing. The village has been cordoned off all day and will remain so until police are satisfied that they've concluded their inquiries into a shocking incident that would have stunned this tiny community at any time of year, but even more so this close to Christmas. Willie Johnston, reporting Scotland, Crotherstown.
A plumber has been convicted of causing a gas explosion that destroyed a retired couple's home in Perthshire. Craig Hall had failed to fit a gas boiler properly. He was found guilty under health and safety laws at Stirling Sheriff Court. Andrew Black has more.
March 2013, a gas explosion obliterates this house in the Perthshire village of Callander. Its owners, Robin and Marion Cunningham, were there at the time. Miraculously, they both survived. This is the man responsible. 35-year-old plumber Craig Hall installed a new boiler at the house in August 2012, but his failure to connect it properly led to a gas leak, which caused the explosion. Today he was convicted of breaching health and safety laws after a trial at Stirling Sheriff Court. Afterwards, he made no comment. What's your reaction to the verdict today? Are you sorry for what happened? Giving evidence during this trial, Craig Hall accepted that when he installed the boiler, he'd missed the fact that one of the pipe joints hadn't been soldered correctly. But he told the court that he'd carried out all the necessary checks to make sure it was safe. In his evidence, he said, "All my checks came back passed. The boiler was working, the customer was happy." Hall said that when he left the Cunninghams' house that day, he described it as just another day's work, just another job done. The Cunninghams' daughter Lynn told the trial her parents had been left utterly overwhelmed by the destruction of their home and became dependent overnight. Sheriff William Gilchrist told Hall he'd be sentenced in the new year, but was told he won't face jail. Andrew Black, reporting Scotland.
The celebrity chef Nick Nairn has been describing how he was beaten up by two men as he walked home from an event last night at his cook school in Aberdeen. He was taken to hospital after hitting his head and passing out on Union Street in the early hours of the morning. Rebecca Curran has more.
Black and blue, but he says it could have been worse. Scottish chef Nick Nairn is recovering after he was attacked in the early hours of this morning after leaving his cook school in Aberdeen.
Two guys, mid-20s, walking towards me. They may have said something, I don't remember. I'm not good at not keeping my mouth shut, so I probably said something smart back. Carried on walking, and then one of them must have doubled back and bang right in the face. He hit me really hard because he knocked me off my feet and landed on my bahookie and then banged my head and kind of blacked out, and my nose was just like a fountain of blood. It was just blood everywhere. I think I'm quite lucky, and I'm fine. That's the most important thing.
Nick was taken to Aberdeen Royal Infirmary in an ambulance and was later discharged.
The assault happened in this area of Aberdeen's Union Street at around 1 o'clock this morning. It's the city's main thoroughfare, and police say it was busy at the time with festive partygoers. They want to speak to anyone who saw what happened.
Start this soup with a little bit of butter.
The celebrity chef is known from the BBC's Landward programme and Ready Steady Cook. He says he's never experienced anything like this before, and he's been left extremely shaken.
It makes me feel uneasy. It makes me feel a bit scared and a bit lucky that, you know, it wasn't worse. And, you know, I have been really thoroughly checked out. They did all the sort of tests and things. But we should be able to walk down our streets. You know, it wasn't a back alley. This is a main thoroughfare. We should be able to walk down our main streets and not get assaulted. It's a kind of basic human right, I think.
Rebecca Curran, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
Police Scotland have issued an unreserved apology to the family of a young man whose death almost 21 years ago they failed to investigate properly. Kevin MacLeod's parents have always believed their son was murdered after his body was found in Wick Harbour. Now, police admit they botched the initial inquiry and that their response to the family's complaints was dismissive and unjustified. Craig Anderson reports.
February 1997, and the body of 24-year-old Kevin MacLeod is recovered from the waters of Wick Harbour. The young electrician had been on a night out with pals, but rumours of an altercation convinced his mum and dad that he'd been the victim of a criminal assault. But from the start, Northern Constabulary insisted his death was an accident, dismissing his family's demand for a full investigation and then treating their complaints with arrogance and disdain. On both counts today, Police Scotland said that was wrong.
I do think you need to recognise it was over 20 years ago, but even by the standards of that time, there were some gaps in the initial investigation. I've recognised that. A number of reviews have recognised that. So what I've done today is met the family in person and given them an unreserved apology.
In a letter to the family, which has been made public, Mr Livingston says there is no doubt that basic policing procedures at this time, such as door-to-door inquiries, were never carried out, and subsequently the opportunity to gather vital evidence missed. For years, Kevin's parents argued that the local Procurator Fiscal had instructed police in Wick to launch a murder inquiry, but they'd failed to do so. Police always maintained no such instruction was issued, but today they admitted unequivocally that it had been.
If I could roll the clock back to February 1997, I would do that. I think the family know that can't be done. There are a number of opportunities that are lost and lost forever. What I did give them an undertaking is that if there are any lines of inquiry that re-emerge or are available, we will pursue them with rigour.
But crucially, Police Scotland say that because of the initial police investigation failures, there's no evidence to clearly indicate the circumstances surrounding the cause of Kevin's death, either criminally or accidentally, which means we'll probably never know how the young man ultimately met his death. Kevin MacLeod's father, Hugh, today welcomed the apology from the Deputy Chief Constable, the most genuine intervention from the police, he said, in 20 years. But while the police may think that this draws a line under the affair, well, the MacLeods feel otherwise. They feel that over the last 20 years there's been a cover-up and a conspiracy, and they're now pressing for a public inquiry. Craig Anderson, reporting Scotland.
A 14-year-old boy is in a critical condition after taking suspected drugs with another youngster in Dundee. Police said both boys may have consumed a substance contained within a red and white capsule. The 14-year-old was taken to hospital and a 13-year-old had to be seen by his local doctor. East Renfrewshire Council has blamed an internal processing error after council tax payments were collected a week early. The money should have been collected on the 28th of December, but was taken from accounts today. Councils advised people to check their bank accounts and apologise for any inconvenience caused. Its website suggests that residents can approach their bank to request a return of funds. Parents of premature babies who are being cared for in hospital are to be given extra financial support. More than 4,000 babies are born early every year in Scotland. Now the government's introducing a fund to help with additional costs, which can add up to more than £200 a week for some parents. Andrew Anderson reports.
Baby Harrison was born 17 days ago. He was 6 weeks premature and his parents don't know when they'll be taking him home.
It's been hard, it's been stressful. Obviously worrying at the start, it was in a quite critical condition, and all the medicines and the ventilation, the things, and then coming up here, we're up here like most hours.
Harrison's being cared for in the neonatal unit at Dundee's Ninewells Hospital. Mum and Dad live close by, but other parents can face months of travelling long distances to be near their baby.
You need to buy your parking, buy your lunch, so you can spend a fortune here, plus your petrol money travelling to and back.
Around 4,500 babies are born prematurely in Scotland every year. The average additional cost to parents, more than £200 a week. Hospitals like this do provide accommodation so parents can remain close to their premature babies, but they can sometimes be in units like this for days, weeks or even months, and the food and travel bills soon mount up.
Is this your first? Second baby. Yeah.
The Health Secretary unveiled the £1.5 million family fund during a visit to Dundee's neonatal unit. She hopes it will help parents of premature babies at what is a very anxious time.
This will be a very easy to access fund that will be administered through the units. There will not be a big bureaucracy around it. It will be very simple and an offer to parents to give them that practical support. We want to make it easy, simple, straightforward, and just some practical support to ease some of the stress at a very, very stressful time.
Parents will be able to apply to the fund from April. Assistance will be available regardless of income. Andrew Anderson, reporting Scotland, Dundee.
You're watching BBC Reporting Scotland. It's heading towards 7:15. A reminder of tonight's top story. Rangers chairman Dave King has been ordered to make an £11 million offer to buy out small shareholders. And still to come, why parents have to become more tech-savvy if they're to stop hackers turning toys against their children. It's been billed as Frantic Friday, with hundreds of thousands of people across Scotland on the move to spend Christmas with family and friends. Katie Hunter has been speaking to travellers by plane, train and automobile.
This was so-called Frantic Friday rush hour on Scotland's busiest motorway, the M8. While roads around shopping centres like Silverburn near Glasgow were congested, there was little out of the ordinary elsewhere. Many people who left earlier in the day were rewarded with stress-free journeys, including drivers at Hamilton Services on the M74.
Today's been fine, yeah. Yesterday was a nightmare.
So I heard on the radio that it's going to be the busiest day, so I prepared myself. I set off in the morning, early enough, with a cup of coffee.
No problem so far, yeah. It's been good. It's been quite smooth, actually. It's been okay.
11:16. Relatively smooth at Glasgow's Central Station too, but no guarantees it will stay that way. Passengers across Scotland are being warned to plan ahead. A combination of engineering work and industrial action will affect various services during the festive period. People travelling from England were relieved to have made it north.
I got on at Wolverhampton, although I didn't think we were going to because of the potential strike yesterday, and I'm going to Linlithgow.
We're from Burnley in Lancashire, and we've come up to spend Christmas with our grandchildren.
I have just come from Dorset, and we're going here to Glasgow for our Christmas.
Flights in and out of Bristol Airport were suspended when a plane carrying 25 people came off the runway after landing. No one was hurt. That had a knock-on effect for air passengers in Scotland, including those in Inverness. With many schools in the north just breaking up this afternoon, staff here expect this weekend to be busier than today.
When we have these busier periods, really it's a case of making sure everyone's informed. People actually don't mind waiting. You can see there's a bit of a queue to get into security, but it won't take us long to clear it. And as long as people know what's going on and they're going to get their flights, we find the passengers, our customers are happy.
And even passengers facing delays were feeling festive.
There's hold-ups, you just can't do anything about it. You just got to smile and move on.
We're going to San Francisco and Las Vegas, and I am looking forward to it.
We should have flown home yesterday, but the flight was cancelled due to some fog in Amsterdam. But we had a nice hotel, and and we're reaching Christmas, so it's okay.
It seems Frantic Friday hasn't been so frantic for everyone. Katie Hunter, reporting Scotland.
Lisa Summers is at a festive-looking Transport Scotland control centre for us. How's it looking this evening, Lisa?
Well, that's right, Sally. Throughout the festive period, staff here will be monitoring any incidents on the road. But let's take a look at things out there this evening. This is the M8 across the Kingston Bridge. Things are moving pretty well so far this evening. And if we come along to the east of the country, this is the Queensferry crossing. You can see a pretty clear run there this evening too. But of course, if you are travelling to see loved ones this weekend, the advice, as always, check.
Well, I think the advice was check in advance before you go anywhere. Thanks very much, Lisa Summers. Sorry about the interruption to signal there. Parents are going to have to become more tech-savvy to stop hackers turning toys against children. That's according to cybersecurity expert. Apparently, the growing number of toys that connect to the internet means there's more scope for them to be taken over for malign purposes. This from our science correspondent, Kenneth MacDonald.
Isn't this cute? Grown-ups can connect the toy to an app, give it a tickle and record a message for a youngster to pick up.
Hello. Nice to hear from you. Hope to hear from you soon. That says received the message. We then use his paw here and we'll play back the message. Hello, nice to hear from you. Hope to hear from you soon.
What could possibly go wrong? Well, someone else can hack into the toy to leave the kind of message Junior might not like quite so much.
Exterminate! Annihilate! Destroy!
Professor Buchanan is an expert in cybersecurity, but he's warning this is a game anyone can play.
There's very few things that can really hide from the internet. Once something has been broken, then the whole world can know about it.
Cloud Pets, who make the teddy, say they're always improving their products against new vulnerabilities. But elsewhere, the growing number of connected toys means the number of possible hacks is growing too.
Kayla here has become something of a poster girl for the vulnerabilities of connected toys. She's actually been banned in Germany as a security risk.
The professor says it means Santa and those advising him need to be more tech-savvy.
If the toy is going to connect onto the internet and be available, then they need to understand the risks that are involved in that.
Toys are just one aspect of the Internet of Things, to which increasing numbers of household objects are connecting. Inexpensive security cameras can be hijacked to keep an eye on their owners, and you could be looking at a spy in your front room right now.
Your TV is now smart. Your TV connects to the internet. Your TV can listen to you and make sense of what you're actually saying.
Santa could be bringing you a Wi-Fi kettle, but some of them have security holes.
The default password is 000000. Along with this particular kettle gives away your Wi-Fi password.
The kettle's manufacturers say that's an old version. It's since been updated to remove the issue, and the ones currently available are safe and secure. Kenneth MacDonald, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Rangers have announced that Graham Murty will continue as interim manager of the club until the end of the season. Murty was put in charge of the first team after the sacking of Pedro Caixinha in October. Since then, the team has won 6 and lost 3 of its games. It's currently third in the Premiership. A crowd of about 25,000 is expected at Murrayfield tomorrow when Edinburgh meet Glasgow in the first of 2 festive Pro 14 league matches between the arch rivals. Glasgow have been the more successful side in recent years, but under their new coach there are signs that Edinburgh may be emerging from their shadow. David Curry reports.
Bringing compliments of the season and some seasonal banter to an Edinburgh Children's Hospital, it's the Merry Gentlemen of Edinburgh Rugby.
Is the Grinch your favourite Christmas character? Yeah? Do you like that? I actually watched it the other night.
But watching festive films might be in breach of one of rugby's unwritten rules.
There's no such thing as Christmas. I think Michael Bradley's famous line was, "Christmas is cancelled." But
that's Michael Jackson you're doing.
Yeah, no, it's not something we think about.
Music to the ears of his head coach, a man whose work ethic previously helped Leicester Tigers win 3 English Premiership titles.
The thing that I'm trying to create here is just getting guys to understand how hard you have to work if you want to be good, and then how hard you have to work if you want to be really good. A lot of modern players just don't understand how hard it takes to be world class or to be a very good Pro 14 or Premiership player.
Edinburgh's results indicate the plain-speaking Englishman is having an impact. Under Richard Cockerell, Edinburgh have won 6 of their 10 league matches this season, the same number of victories they managed in the whole of their last campaign. However, Glasgow have won all 10 of their matches.
I honestly don't know where we're going to be at, and I don't know what's going to happen. I know that we're going to be very committed. I know we're going to fire a few shots at them, and I know we're going to be in the fight. But I've got to see whether this group can cope with this pressure.
The first match in the Edinburgh-Glasgow double-header is here at Murrayfield tomorrow, the second at Scotstoun a week later. After that, we should have a much better idea of exactly how much progress Edinburgh have made under Richard Cockerill. David Curry, reporting Scotland, Murrayfield.
Yeah, let's see what the weather has in store for us. Chris?
Sally, thank you. Hello there, good evening. Well, it's been fairly cloudy for many of us today, quite murky at times, although there was some sunshine across parts of the northeast. And certainly as we head through the next few hours, staying cloudy with some spots of light rain and drizzle in the northwest, and that's slowly extending its way south and eastwards. The breeze picking up in the far north and the Northern Isles, and some rain here. Generally a mild night though, temperatures in towns and cities around 7 to 9 Celsius, slightly cooler in the northeast, perhaps down to 2 or 3 Celsius through parts of Deeside. So to tomorrow, and it will be a windy day, quite a strong southwesterly, gales at times in the northwest, perhaps some disruption on the ferries, but actually that wind will help to break up the cloud and we'll see something a good bit brighter than we've seen in recent days for central, southern and eastern Scotland. But you'll notice in the northwest, cloudy and wet and that rain edging southwards. So mid-afternoon, well, a cloudy afternoon in the south after that bright start, but towards the borders, East Lothian, Fife, Angus, Aberdeenshire, probably holding on to the sunshine in places here. Further west, cloudier, wetter, still quite windy and mild actually, 11, 12 Celsius for most of us, and parts of the northeast, 13 or 14 degrees is possible. So if you're hill walking or climbing, certainly western and northwestern parts of the country, pretty cloudy, that rain arriving, and windy from the southwest. Steady wind speeds there, 50 to 60 miles an hour, but gusting at times up to 90, especially on exposed ridges and summits. And despite the temperatures there, 6, 7 Celsius, it's going to feel quite cold with that wind strength. Rest of the afternoon into the evening and the rain edging its way southwards. Most of the central belt seeing that rain and the south as well. Then the second half of the weekend, Sunday, this is Christmas Eve. We still have a weather front bringing out breaks of rain, and if you've got some last minute shopping to do on Christmas Eve, you're likely going to get wet. It's a pretty soggy old day, still quite breezy and still quite mild, improving in the north, drying up. And then Christmas Day, the big day itself, well, still quite wet, bit of a change in emphasis from what we were thinking yesterday, in that most of the rain for central and southern parts, the north a bit drier, anything wintry, snowy, really only for the hills and high ground. And then as we go overnight towards Boxing Day, that rain tends to clear away and we have a brief lull in between two systems. So Boxing Day is quieter, it's colder, 3, 4, 5 Celsius, fairly cloudy, some bright spells and 1 or 2 showers. That's the forecast for now.
Thanks very much, Chris. Now, a reminder of tonight's main news. The first visit by a British foreign minister to Moscow for 5 years has ended in public disagreement. Russia has accused the UK of fabricating allegations against it. Rangers chairman Dave King has been ordered to make an £11 million offer to buy out small shareholders. And that's Reporting Scotland. I'll be back with the headlines at 8 and the late bulletin just after the 10 o'clock news. Until then, from everyone in the team right across the country, have a good evening. Bye-bye.